1%. That is the gap between Iran and nuclear weapons capability. Just hours ago, the International Atomic Energy Agency released an urgent assessment. According to that report, uranium enrichment at Iran's Fordo facility, a site buried deep inside a mountain and protected by massive layers of rock, has reached approximately 89%. Weapons grade begins at 90%, a difference of just 1%. At current enrichment speeds, that final step could be achieved within a single day. For decades, the world has tried to prevent this exact moment. What was once measured in years, then months, is now potentially measured in hours. But this is not a slow escalation. This is not an accident. This is a deliberate acceleration, a sprint toward the threshold. Only weeks ago, enrichment levels stood at 60%. Already dangerously high, but still some distance from actual weapon capability. Then the situation shifted. Pressure increased, conflict intensified, and Iran accelerated enrichment to its maximum pace. And here is what makes this moment even more striking. They are not hiding it. Inspectors were allowed access. Verification was permitted. This is not secrecy, this is signaling. A clear message to the world. We are at the edge. The next move is yours. But unlike past nuclear crises, Iran is not simply threatening to build a weapon. They are approaching the point where they can demonstrate capability. One more step, one more percentage point, one action that could permanently reshape the balance of power in the Middle East. And what makes this even more dangerous is the possibility that attempts to stop this progress may have accelerated it. According to international assessments, Iran already possesses enough enriched material that, if brought to weapons grade, could support multiple nuclear devices. The knowledge exists, the systems exist, the centrifuges are running. We are witnessing a defining moment. Either a new nuclear state emerges, or drastic measures are taken to stop it. Both outcomes will reshape global security. Before we go deeper, it's important to understand why this moment matters so much. This is not just another geopolitical tension. This is the scenario global powers have spent decades trying to prevent. By the end of this analysis, you will understand why the timeline is no longer measured in months, but potentially in days. To understand that, we must begin with the basics. What does uranium enrichment actually mean? And why is the final 1% so critical? Natural uranium contains two primary isotopes, U-238 and U-235. Only U-235 can sustain a nuclear chain reaction, the fundamental process behind nuclear weapons, but in nature, uranium contains only about 0.7% U-235. The rest is U-238, which cannot sustain that reaction. Enrichment is the process of increasing the concentration of U-235. This is achieved using centrifuges, machines that spin uranium gas at extremely high speeds, gradually separating isotopes. Here is the critical insight. The process becomes easier as enrichment levels rise. Reaching low enrichment levels requires most of the total effort, but moving from 60% to 90% is much faster. This is where timelines compress dramatically. At 60%, a country may still be months away from weapons capability. At nearly 90%, that distance can shrink to days. Weapons-grade uranium is defined at around 90%. At this level, the material can sustain a rapid, uncontrollable chain reaction. A basic nuclear device typically requires around 50 to 60 kilograms of such material. More advanced designs require even less. Current estimates suggest that Iran possesses hundreds of kilograms of uranium enriched to intermediate levels. If further enriched, this stockpile could support multiple devices. That is why this moment is so critical. This is no longer about potential. This is about proximity to capability. The IAEA's latest assessment provides critical insight into Iran's current position. The report confirms enrichment levels approaching 89% at the Fordo facility. Fordo is not just any site. It is built deep BTVKH, a mountain, specifically designed to withstand aerial attacks. This is a strategic decision. Iran is conducting its most sensitive enrichment activities at its most protected location. This is not coincidence. It is calculated. The report also indicates changes in centrifuge configurations, optimized for faster enrichment. Additionally, monitoring limitations and restricted access in certain areas reduce external visibility. In simple terms, Iran is not just advancing. They are preparing for the final phase while controlling what the world can see. Why Iran is accelerating. The timing of this acceleration is not random. It aligns closely with rising geopolitical tensions. Previously, maintaining enrichment around 60% allowed Iran to demonstrate capability while avoiding immediate escalation. But that balance appears to have shifted. Current behavior suggests a different calculation, that reaching nuclear capability may serve as a form of strategic deterrence. In high-pressure scenarios, states often prioritize survival. And nuclear capability is widely viewed as the ultimate deterrent. This creates a dangerous dynamic. Scientific capability combined with strategic urgency. The demonstration scenario. One scenario analysts consider is not just weapon development but demonstration. A controlled nuclear test would immediately confirm capability. Such an event would fundamentally alter regional dynamics. Once demonstrated, nuclear capability cannot be reversed or denied. It becomes a permanent factor in global security calculations, and the international response options become far more limited after such a demonstration. This is why the current moment is so critical. The numbers behind the crisis. From a technical perspective, Iran's existing enriched uranium stockpile is significant. If further enriched to weapons grade, it could theoretically yield enough material for multiple devices. However, producing weapons-grade material is only one step. Weaponization, engineering, and delivery systems require additional time and complexity. Still, the closer enrichment levels get to 90%, the shorter the timeline becomes. This is what concerns experts most: the shrinking gap between capability and action. Regional implications. If Iran reaches nuclear capability, the impact will extend across the entire region. Countries such as Israel have long viewed this as a critical security threat. Other regional powers may feel compelled to respond in kind. This could trigger a broader cycle of nuclear proliferation. A region with multiple nuclear-capable states becomes significantly more unstable, and the risks of miscalculation increase dramatically. Strategic options. At this stage, options become increasingly limited. Military strikes may not fully eliminate deeply buried facilities. Covert actions require time, which may no longer be available. Diplomatic solutions depend on trust and timing, and acceptance of a nuclear-capable Iran carries its own consequences. Each option involves significant risks. There are no simple solutions. The critical moment for most observers, enrichment levels may seem like technical details, but in reality, they represent a turning point, a shift in the global security landscape. We may be witnessing a moment that defines the next era of international relations. The decisions made in the coming days will shape what happens next, and at this point, no outcome is certain. What is clear is that this moment matters.